Hi, this is Sue with the Teachers Upstairs, and this is PD for Teachers in 5 minutes or less. Today we're going to be covering research-based ways on how to study more effectively. I had a mom come in and talk to me one day during SCPs, and she was concerned about her daughter who was struggling in class, most especially with assessments. And she asked me how her daughter could raise her test scores, and I thought, well, she needs to just learn how to study more effectively. And her mom asked me, Sue, what does it look like to a sixth grader to study effectively? And I thought, seriously, what does it look like to study effectively? Are students just born with an innate instinct to know how to study? Is it hours and hours at the kitchen table reading and rereading? Is it going over their notes 10 times or maybe 12 times is the magic number? Or is it highlighting their notes in 5 different colors? One thing was for sure, I needed to learn how to study more effectively if I was going to teach my students how to study more effectively. So when learning how to study effectively, teachers can help. Number 1, give pre-tests to your students. Research has shown that student recall of information is much more greater when pre-tests are given. Incorporate spaced learning into your classroom routine. Before beginning a lesson, say, I want to talk about what we learned last week about moon phases. Bring in that spiral review. For homework, make sure you're giving homework on topics that have already been talked about in class. And teach your students how to dig deeper, to ask those hard questions or those connecting questions where students are led back to their notes, they're led back to the anchor charts, to textbooks, to make sure that the connections they're making are actually correct. So my answer to this parent on how to study more effectively and what that looks like was to develop a study guide. I'm not talking an elaborate one, a simple one, but a consistent one. We as teachers have a responsibility to our students. We have that responsibility to provide scaffolding so that they can learn how to study effectively. So once I got started with the study guide, I noticed that my students were coming into class way more confident, and they were paying way more attention to their their science journals. They were putting in a lot of effort into their science journals because they saw that the science journals helped them with the study guide. And I had parents commenting to me about how their students were actually gaining skills and strategies that would help them in high school, in college. Like, we were preparing them for their future, which is what a teacher's supposed to be doing. So as you plan your study guide, consider the following. Space out their learning, their studies time. Students are super busy after school. Give them their study guide well in advance of the test. Make sure that the things on your study guide were covered in class, that the students can find those things in their notes, and break up the study guide into chunks. So here are 7 ways to spice up your study guide. Visuals. Provide different visuals where students can explain those visuals or flowcharts or concept maps in their own words. Give them links to videos and graphic organizers to organize the information they get out of the videos. Have students act out a chemical reaction or the rotation and revolution of the moon, of the sun, of the earth. Give them models and diagrams where they have to annotate, where they have to actually pull the information out of their notes to annotate those models and diagrams. Give them flashcards, but provide them with strategies on how to actually use the flashcards. Provide a time frame. Say, hey, tonight for homework, watch this 5-minute video, draw me a concept map. Done. Give them the you are a teacher strategy where they have to actually reteach a concept to their dog or their fish or their pet rock. How to study effectively without distractions is the last thing we're going to cover today. Silence isn't always golden. Some students study better with music. Have them discover which type of music helps them to concentrate. Number 2, tell them to leave their phone in another room. They don't need to be interrupted by text messages or by social media. Avoid multitasking, because when you multitask, your brain has to constantly refocus itself on what you're supposed to be studying. So avoid multitasking. Close all of the tabs on the computer. Number 5, set a timer. I'm going to study, have them say, I'm going to study for 15 minutes tonight on seasons. And when the timer's done, they're done studying. Take breaks. Giving yourself a break or telling your students to take breaks will help them. And clean up the work area. Make sure your students know that they can study way more effectively if their work area is clean. And the last tip is, if they're hungry, they should probably eat before they sit down to study. This is just a small snippet on how to study more effectively. Head on over to theteachersupstairs.com, where we dive in deep on how to study more effectively, where you can get actionable items that will help you to teach your students, to provide them with the scaffolding they need. And they are items that you can do today in your class. Thanks, friends, for stopping by and spending your time with us today.